Hi everyone, Ms. Stillman here. This is the key for practice with proportions in right triangles. Take a look at question 1. The side we're looking for is CD, so I put an X on CD, and that is the altitude of the figure. That's SAS. Segment over altitude equals altitude over segment, and X, or CD, is 4. On the next question, our X is labeled on the leg of the large right triangle. The hypotenuse is at the bottom, that's the 3.5, and 6 is the matching segment. That's the correct segment to use in hills. So here's the setup and the answer. Number 3 had to be in simplest radical form. The diagram has the right angle at the bottom. The X that we're looking for is QR. That's the leg, so we know we're doing hills. And the hypotenuse is the whole thing, the 12. That 12 is the hypotenuse that we put into the formula there. Then we need the leg is X, the leg is X again. But when we look for the segment, we need to take an extra moment to figure it out. We don't want to use 8 because it matches the other leg that we're not working on that side. We need this side. So what we do is we take the whole hypotenuse of 12, subtract the segment of 8 that we know to find 4. That's the segment we don't know. And we put it into the formula. When we get to the square root of 48, we find the largest perfect square that goes into 48. 16 times 3 is 48. 16 is the perfect square, 3 is the non-perfect square. Square root of 16 is 4. Bring down the square root of 3. The answer is 4 radical 3. In question 4, we know that the 5 is labeling the leg, so it's a hills question. Hills is hypotenuse over leg equals leg over seg. The hypotenuse is 10. The segment is the X, it matches the 5, it's on the correct side. And the leg is 5, so we do 10 over 5 equals 5 over X. Cross multiply and get X is 2.5. Number 5. This was also a simplest radical form question. Now, when we're working on the X, that's the leg, so we know we're doing hills. We go to our formula hypotenuse. Oh, the hypotenuse is this whole amount. Add 3 and 5 to get you 8. Hypotenuse over leg, leg is X. Leg is X again. What's the segment? Which segment do we use? Well, the leg and the seg match. That's why we use the 3. And when we do simplest radical form, 24 divided by 4 is 6. 4 is the perfect square. 2 radical 6 is your answer. Now number 6, we have the number 6 on the altitude. That's a SAS question. The segment is X plus 5 over the altitude 6, the other segment of X. When you cross multiply, make sure X gets distributed to X and 5. You get X squared plus 5X equals 36. Subtract the 36 over, so you get a trinomial equal to 0. Now we can factor it. X plus 9, X minus 4. That's because 4 times 9 is 36. To make it negative, it should be a negative 4 and 9. 9 minus 4 is positive 5. If you got stuck on this part, you could have put X squared plus 5X minus 36 into the Y equals portion of your calculator and looked at the table to see that negative 9 comma 0 is one part of the parabola, and 4 comma 0 is the other part of the parabola. You would have seen that on the table if you ever got stuck. Otherwise, we factor and get X is 4, X equals negative 9. We reject the negative number because you're not going to have a negative length. X is 4 is the right answer. The last question is about finding a true statement. We need to make sure we know what all the pieces of the diagram are. The H is the altitude. B is leg 1. I'm just calling that 1 on the left side, whereas the right side I'll call leg 2. The bottom, C, is all the hypotenuse. R is segment 1, S is segment 2. Now that I know what all these letters they gave me mean for my diagram, I can go to the proportions and figure out which proportion is correct. R is segment 1. H is altitude again. S is segment 2. Now that looks like SAS. I'm pretty sure that's my answer, but let's check the rest of them. C is hypotenuse, H is altitude, S is segment 2. We don't have hypotenuse mixing with altitude, that's not right. In C, number 3, C is hypotenuse over leg equals leg over seg. Now at first glance that looks like hills, but Look at that leg 1. B is here, matching R, but for some reason this proportion uses S. Leg 1 and seg 2 do not match. That's why 3 is wrong. Lastly, number 4 is seg 1 over leg 2 over seg 2. Now that doesn't make sense. Segments are supposed to go with altitudes. So that's why number 1 is the proper answer.